I used to think that being a great mentor meant having all of the right answers, but it turns out that, mentorship isn't about giving other people your roadmap. It's about helping them to build and develop their own. What I didn't realize at the time was I had fallen into a trap that so many people who are trying to mentor people or trying to make an impact that they fall into. You fall into this fixer trap. I thought I was helping, but really I was stealing growth opportunities from the very people I was trying to build up and empower. And so today we're going to be talking about how you help others without trying to fix them, right? This is how you scale your influence and your impact and create value for others, without creating a dependency. Oftentimes it's referred to as the mentor's dilemma. And so I want to unpack that with you today. Now, I want to just say welcome to the Giver Method channel. My name is Jake. I'm so glad you're able to join me. Now, let me frame this up a little bit by asking a couple of questions. Have you ever caught yourself constantly solving other people's problems and wondering why do they keep coming back with the same issues? Or maybe I know exactly how to fix this, but why does it feel off to always be the one with the answers? Or I want to help people grow like I have, but sometimes I'm drained, from being everyone's go-to problem solver. A lot of times when people have discovered what their spark is, and even if they've implemented some of the stuff from the Giver Method, they start trying to create that impact and influence in the world. They find themselves in these gosh, I'm just not making the impact that I want to make. I'm not able to connect with them in the way that I'm trying to connect with them. Now that may sound familiar to you. Now just know, hey, feeling sort of hey, why do I feel this way? Or why do I feel like I should be getting more out of this? It's not that you're not helpful. You're not being selfish in any way. You're definitely not alone in that feeling. You're just stuck in this idea of what they refer to as the mentor's dilemma. Your ability to see solutions clearly is actually keeping others from building their own. And so maybe you're a parent who's really purpose-driven, who's found your footing, and now other parents come to you for advice, and you notice that they're not developing their own problem-solving muscles. They're just relying on you. Maybe you're aligned. Maybe you're a really aligned entrepreneur, with what you're trying to create and the impact you're making, and you're reconnecting with your whys. And those around you, colleagues, keep asking you for strategies, but you start feeling you're the bottleneck for their growth. I see that a lot with entrepreneurs that I've worked with over the last decade. Or maybe you are an influential employee whose teammates always turn to them for the answers, and you're realizing you're creating a dependency instead of developing them to be leaders so that you can focus on what you need to focus on, let them focus on what they need to focus on. Here's the truth. Having solutions and answers that's not the problem. The problem is how we share them out to people. And so we want to dive deep into that today. Now, I do want to say, just in case you were wondering, my name is Jake Talbert. I mentioned earlier, my name's Jake. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It came out last November, and since coming out, it has impacted so many people. Thousands of people have seen where they've been able to take this, implement the things to create more impact, more influence, and create value for the people who are around them. Better relationships, deeper connections, a more fulfilled life, more joy and delight in their life. And so I'd highly recommend you go get yourself a copy. I'll put a link in the description where you can go get it on Amazon. Right now, you can get it for between $2 to $10. That's the best $2 to $10 you could invest in yourself this year. I mean, that's it. Less than a cup of coffee, right? So go get yourself a copy. Like I said, links in down below. Go to Amazon, or you could pause the video real quick and go to Amazon. Open up your Amazon app and find The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. If you want to pause, you could do that now, and then we'll start back up. But get yourself a copy. Like I said, what's great about it is that it is grounded in my story, which I've walked very similar paths to you. I am a parent. I've got 3 boys. I'm an entrepreneur. I've worked in that corporate atmosphere as a team leader, and I've seen a lot of the same struggles. I've grown from discovering my own spark and developing my gifts and superpowers to create impact for other people, and now I share that out with others through the book. And each chapter, what people love is that the exercises, the examples, the action items, whatever it may be, they're all meant for people like you, because like I said, they're grounded from where I came from. So they're meant for the parents, for the entrepreneurs, for the people who are working away. And you can't just burn down everything to go, learn this new coaching program or anything like that. And so I highly recommend, once in, go get yourself a copy. Tons of things you'll take away from it. I know for years I fell into that fixer trap myself. And someone would share a challenge with me, and I'd go straight to hey, here's what you should do. Let's go do this. And because I could see the path so clearly, I thought I was helping. I'm really good at breaking down complex problems for people and making them really simple. I was this is I'm helping everybody. I'm being a leader. but really I was robbing them the chance for them to grow in their own capacity and their own confidence using their gifts and superpowers. And so I want to make this video because like I've been down that road. We're going to unpack that idea of the mentor's like dilemma that you're experiencing with these 6 like ways to look at it, 6 strategic principles, areas of focus to help you scale your influence by building other people's problem solving skills instead of trying to solve them yourself. The wild part is like the data that's out there, research and stuff like that shows that mentorship, like based on asking questions and not handing out answers, like it like that sort of a way, when you're asking all questions, not just answers, that mentorship, it creates like a 73% jump in problem solving confidence for mentees, and then 67% less burnout for the mentors. Like that's great. Yet most leaders default to the fix it mode because like the answers feel so obvious. So let's end that today. Let's walk through these 6 principles. I'm going to help you to multiply that impact and protect your own energy, but build other people around you, leaders who can lead without you. And no, it's not about it's not about holding back help or being stingy with the wisdom. Like it's about being more generous in ways that are more sustainable for you and for them. Every principle, like I said, it comes from not only stuff from the GIVER method, but stuff that we are working on inside of what we call the Impact Maker framework. If you've mastered this idea of your gifts and you want to create that impact, stuff like that the GIVER method teaches, the next level is multiplying those gifts through strategic mentorship, leadership development, things like that. And so if you want to go deeper, like once again, you can always go to Amazon, get yourself a copy of the GIVER method. You can go to givermethod.com, sign up for like our newsletter, free resources. As we release more things about impact makers, we can let you know about that. If you want some one-on-one support through stuff like this, like scaling your influence, then I've got some one-on-one coaching positions open. You can check out the link down below about coaching. And then, of course, if you lead a team, run a podcast, host a mastermind, an event, whatever, a platform of some kind where, people are gathering and this sort of a message would help them, then I'd love to explore how we could bring it to them. There's a link down below about speaking and podcasting. And of course, hit subscribe, tap the bell for notifications. Don't want you to miss out on any of the content we create because I release videos all week long, both on the GIVER method and other principles. Of course, like the video and then leave your comments along the way. So let's jump in, let's dive in and go through this and start building like the kind of mentorship that doesn't just create followers, it creates leaders who create leaders and so on and so forth, a great ripple effect. So the first principle is to lead with curiosity, not conclusions. This is like transforming from your answer giving to like insight development. And so it's one of the best tools that you can develop as a leader. Like as a mentor, like it's not the wisdom that you've collected, like it's the questions that you can ask. That's one of the greatest tools, right? When someone comes to you with a challenge, especially one that you've already faced, you've conquered, like it's tempting to just jump in. Hey, here's exactly what you need to do. Here's what I did. Here's how you could approach this. Like it feels like you're being helpful in the moment, but the problem is you just rob them of the chance to figure it out themselves. And real growth doesn't happen when we hand everybody the answer. This is the whole concept of the give a man a fish versus teach a man a fish. Well, sure, I can give you the fish so that you can eat now, but I still want to teach you. This happens in like your growth happens in the messy, brain-stretching space where we wrestle with the problems, that we have, and we come out on the other side with a solution that we can own, and that's what we're trying to empower them with. That's what sticks. That's what makes people stronger than the next challenge. And so here's the shift that I want you to think about. Ask questions to help people unpack their problem from their own perspective. I've got like these 3 questions that I've adopted. I don't remember where I got them from, but I've adopted them into like a framework I like to use. And so you could use these yourself if you want to write them down. The 3 questions are like, what have you already tried? We're honoring the efforts. We're showing them how they like their natural approach to their problems. And then it's like, great, well, what do you think might work? And it pulls in their own ideas and instincts. And then you ask them like, well, what would success look like? And it gives them a clear target to aim for. And then here's the hard part, pause. Like you may need to even count down from like 7 in your head and just let them think. Silence is where good stuff happens in coaching and mentoring, right? You want to get them to have that discovery moment at that point. Sometimes it's like, hey, come back, come with 3 possible ideas of like, hey, I could do it this way, or this way. And we'll just talk through them. You make mentoring feel like this, like I said, discovery conversations instead of advice, sessions. Like, not a strategy session for me to give you strategy. It's like you want advice because I want to help you. Like, and that's going to be by building you up. So start like, hey, help me understand what's going on from your perspective. Hey, is this a problem that if this problem like wasn't there, if it didn't exist, what would be possible? And then like wrap it up with like, hey, you got you've got some good instincts here. What do you think your next step is? And over time, like you build yourself a little like question library, things that you can keep going to. Like I said, there's all sorts of ones out there that follow things like that. So things like, hey, what's the real challenge behind the challenge here? You know, if you couldn't fail, what would you go try? Maybe what's one small step, what's one small experiment you could do this week to test that? You know, because like this builds their confidence, not just like their confidence in you, right? You stop creating people who need you to move forward, and you start creating people who like can carry the work without you, and that's when impact multiplies. And that leads us to the second principle, which is like boundaries that build people up. So I want to create sustainable support without the dependency behind it. You know, this is, once again, this is true to the give a man a fish, teach a man a fish. Like, you know, helping without creating dependency is one of the hardest things to learn as a leader and a mentor, especially when you can see the solution clear as day. Yeah, but here's the trap. Like, because you've been where you are, your brain jumps straight to like, oh, I know exactly what I should do. And you probably do. But every time that you hand over a full solution, you're not letting them, like, you're doing the thinking for them, right? You're taking away the reps that they need to build their own problem-solving muscles. You know, that's where burnout for you happens, and dependency on them will start to really creep in. You know, and so that's like why empowerment boundaries come in, like why it's so important. It's not about helping less, it's about helping differently. You set clear expectations from the start, you know, in your role that you're going to help them think through challenges, like not think for them. You share frameworks, you ask questions, like you point to useful resources, but you leave the heavy lifting of decision making in their hands. And so here's how you can do this. Here's a couple things to consider. Number one, like set the rules early with them. You know, in your first conversation, you're gonna have to say something like, hey, I'm here to help you find solutions, to ask you questions, share ideas, and point you towards resources. But the thinking and the decisions, like, they're yours. You know, keep the responsibility with them. You know, have them come prepared before you meet. They should already have tried something, learned something, you know, and know where they're stuck. You know, give them the ability to come like, hey, you should be coming with like 3, like, I don't know, if I had all the time, energy, and money in the world, here's what I would go do. Like, get them to just be thinking. That way, like, you're building on their effort that, you know, on the effort of being like the first call of every problem. You're like, they're not coming to you for everything. It's like, no, build on what they've already got. And then give them support in the cycles. So, like, if you're mentoring someone over time, like, create these simple rhythms, or like maybe break it up into multiple sessions, like maybe 3 sessions where first one is like, hey, let's understand what's happening. The second is like, let's build the strategy. And the third is like, let's reflect on what are the next steps. And that structure keeps the relationship from turning into just this open-ended lifeline. They have to go out and do the work themselves, you know? And then the last one is like this idea of like, you point, you don't pour. So instead of like just dumping out your full playbook, point them towards the tools, the examples, the case studies they can adapt. Keep them engaged in the process so that it makes the learning stick. Like, when you do this, something like amazing happens. You stop being like the bottleneck. People start bringing their own progress, like bringing you progress instead of like, you know, just problems. And that, like, there's a real ripple effect that comes from that. There's tons of data out there that shows that, like, when you create these types of boundaries, you don't just protect your energy, like, you actually make it like 91% more likely that the people you mentor will go on to mentor others, creating even more of that ripple. That's how influence scales without having to like be everywhere at once or burn yourself out. Now, our third principle is like, we talked about a playbook. Like, you've got your playbook of things. You got to pass your playbook on. You know, how do you create the frameworks that things can be rather than just solutions? You know, thinking systems, like organized thinking. Like, this is one of the biggest things when I work with small businesses and entrepreneurs day to day. Like, the way you think about the problem and the way that you organize your ideas and your thoughts, like, sometimes is the thing that helps you move the fastest when you need to move forward. If you really want impact to last, like, the secret is like to stop giving them the answers and teach them how you think. You know, it's a wisdom transfer. You know, it's not about solving one problem for one person. It's about giving them decision-making frameworks and tools that they can use for their next 10 problems that life's going to throw at them. Specific solutions are like single-use tools. You know, frameworks are like a toolbox that you can carry for years. And the funny thing is, most of us don't even realize that we have these frameworks. They're just how we think. You know, it's like this unconscious competence that we have. Like, if you can slow down and put your process into words, like, you can hand it to anyone in any way for them to use. And so here's how you do that. The first thing, like, audit your playbook. Like, what's your go-to mental framework that you use to, you know, over and over? Maybe it's how you weigh a big decision. Maybe it's how you handle conflict or spot opportunities. Whatever, just write down, like, what do I do? Like, write down the steps. How am I as clear as possible? Tell teaching stories. Instead of saying like, hey, here's what you should do, share time where you face something similar. Walk them through the framework you used and then be like, well, hey, how could you use that in this situation? Go practice together. Walk them through their own real challenge using your framework and let them make the calls. You're training them to use the tool, not swinging the hammer for them. And then, of course, evolve your framework. Pay attention to how others adapt them. If someone adds a great twist, add it back into your version. Now your wisdom grows through the people that you've taught. When you start doing this, influence starts multiplying without like you being the one in every single room, right? You're no longer just helping people, you're equipping them like to evolve and help themselves and others along the way. Now that's going to take us to the fourth principle, which is like you got to meet them at their starting line. Guidance to their readiness. It's one of the easiest ways to burn yourself out as a mentor is giving the wrong kind of help at the wrong time. And I see this when people really trying to make that impact with their gifts and superpowers. Not everyone who asks for your input is ready for the same kind of support. Some people need a spark of encouragement. Some people need a skill set. Some people are ready for like a full strategic fine tuning, and a few, like they're ready to start multiplying their impact by by teaching others. I often use the example with this, like, so I'm a big, Star Wars fan, and I know a lot about the extended universe and all the storylines and plot lines and everything. And oftentimes when people come and want to talk about Star Wars, I start asking some very direct probing questions about what they're talking about, so I can determine their level of Star Wars nerdiness and knowledge. And then I'm going to meet them where they're at. If they're an original trilogy person, hey, here's what that looks like. Hey, oh, you know some more about this. Oh, you know things about the books. Oh, you know stuff about comics or about, and I'll go as deep as they need to be. But I meet them at that point so that I don't out nerd them. Well, the same is so true when we're being mentors and we're leading people. We do that. We oftentimes go straight to like let me tell you about the whole entire extended universe. Let me tell you all the things I know. Like, no, let's meet them where they are. That's where it's going to be real impact. And so one may need one skill set. And then, like I said, some may need that just strategic fine tuning. Others are ready for the greater impact. So this is how I want you to think of these. Like, there's 4 stages I want you to think about. Okay. That align to kind of what I just mentioned with how people show up. Number one's like the first stage is like someone's an explorer. Like they're still figuring out the lay of the land. Like they're early on. You're gonna have to do some very simple foundational principles. The developer, which is all right, we're building core skills in confidence. There's then the implementer like stage where you're putting things into action and like trying to refine things. And then there's the multiplier stage where it's like, great, now let them go lead and teach and influence others. If you skip the stage like they're in, like you risk overwhelming them or boring them. Like an explorer doesn't need the 12-step leadership framework. They need clarity upon just where to start. The multiplier doesn't need you holding their hand. They need tools to amplify their reach. Now here's how you make sure like you're meeting people at their starting line. So number one is like, there's questions you have to ask. It's a readiness question. What's your experience with this? What have you already tried? What's your biggest challenge right now? Like clarity, skills, confidence, or execution. Like, let's find out what those things are. And then match your approach. Like, explorers focus on, like, the vision and the possibilities. Like, if they're a developer, teach frameworks, create safe space for them to practice. If they're an implementer, help them to troubleshoot and optimize. If they're a multiplier, shift into, like, wisdom transfer mode. Then help them level up. When someone outgrows the stage, like, celebrate it. And then challenge them on to the next step. Let them see here's what this means now. And then, of course, track their progress. It's amazing when you track people who you're coaching and mentoring's progress. Like, you see, like, these clear moments where they move from, like, I need answers to, like, oh, I'm creating my own answers. Like, that's a signal, like, your approach is really working. And when you get this right, your guidance actually sticks. You're not over-teaching or under-challenging. You're giving people exactly what they're ready for. You get to serve a wider range of people without feeling stretched super thin. That takes us to the 5th principle, like how you multiply your impact by growing other mentors. Goodness, we can actually help give to other mentors and grow them as well. The real win in mentorship isn't helping just one person grow. It's helping them grow to the point where they start growing others. That, oh my gosh, that ripple effect is amazing. I love seeing this with my kids. I love seeing it with the people I coach. Like, it's insane what it does. Your influence stops being a straight line and it starts being like a multiplier. Like, here's the secret. Some people you mentor already have the raw ingredients to be like incredible mentors themselves. They ask great questions, they listen more than they talk. Like they light up when they see someone else succeed. They may not call themselves a mentor or that yet, but you can see it. And your job, like, don't leave that potential to chance. Nurture it. Show them not only like what you know, but like how you mentor. You know, how you ask empowering questions, how you match the guidance like to someone's readiness, how you build confidence without, you know, creating a dependency. And so here's some things like number one, like spot the natural mentors. Watch for the people that, you know, gravitate towards that advice. Notice who encourages without taking over, who actually like gets energized by helping people. You know, give them the tools, share your best mentoring frameworks. Like there's nothing, I always tell people, like there's nothing sacred like in the coaching and knowledge transfer space. You know, walk them through your question first approach, your how-to guide. Like, do you see what I'm doing here? I believe you watching this, if you're watching this, you are a mentor, a coach, somebody who's trying to make an impact on other people's lives. And I'm just giving you this stuff away. I could go create a course, I could sell that, I could teach it in coaching, but like just give it. It's amazing that the universe will always pay you back when you do that. You know, create safe space for them to practice their own like thing. Give them mini projects to mentor, and then track the wins. Celebrate when you see them, you know, asking better questions. When you see them start seeking, you know, when others are seeking them out, or when they finish a mentoring conversation and they feel lit up instead of drained. Like this is how you go from having like your influence that you know building to like really building a true ripple effect. That's not just influence. It's a ripple effect that keeps growing without you being at the center of it. You know, one great mentor like you develop could go on to impact dozens or hundreds, like more people than you'll ever meet. You know, that's when your work really starts to take the life of its own, which leads us right to the sixth principle, which is like there's this legacy that lives without you. Sustainable influence that extends beyond like your involvement, where you step away. The truth is like your biggest impact isn't the moments where you're right there. It's, you know, guiding every single step. It's the moments that you're not there, you know, and growth is still happening. You know, that's where a legacy impact, I talk a lot about creating legacy and these ripple effects. Like it's when the culture or the system or the people that you've poured into keep thriving without you having to be in the room. It's not about your name being remembered. It's about the values that you lived, you know, and that you lived out in that by the people, like values that are now being instilled in the people that you've never met. At that level, you're not just mentoring individuals, you're building environments where growth happens so naturally, where leaders raise up other leaders, where empowerment is just baked into the way things work. That could mean you starting a community where mentorship happens, you know, on your own. It could be creating a resource, you know, where you teach other principles at scale. It could be shaping a culture, rewarding like the development of others, like when you develop others, not just personal wins. And so here's some just quick ideas of things that you can do to make that happen. Like bake it into the culture, like whether it's your company, team, your community, design it so that growth is so normal. It's easy for people to mentor each other, to celebrate, you know, leaders who develop other leaders. Scale your wisdom, like write it, record it, teach it, do something, package it in a way that your best mentoring principles, you know, that they're tools, videos, workshops, online resources, whatever, so they can reach people you'll never meet, but you still get the benefit. Yeah, maybe you make a business out of that. Maybe you generate some income off that. Maybe you don't. And that's perfectly fine too. You know, create networks of people. Gosh, if you could build places, formal or casual, where people like you've developed could connect, swap ideas, or sharpen each other. The goal is for them to keep growing together without needing to run it all. And then like track what that ripple is. Find the ways that the influence has gone on beyond where you are. Notice who's teaching what you've taught. You know, how you can spread like to a second, a third, or fourth layer of people, like, and hearing those stories come back. When you lead like this, your work stops being about you and starts becoming a movement. Long after you step away, things you've built are still making people better, still multiplying leaders, still carrying your fingerprints without needing your hands to be involved. You know, so here's the thing. Your biggest impact as a leader won't come from the problems that you fix. It will come from the problem solvers that you create and build. I get it. You want to help people. I get that. You know, you can see the answers clear as day. Like you've probably been one of the people like where you've been stuck yourself. You've walked that path before, and you've seen it. You know how it feels to be that person, and you want to empower. You want them to be where you are. But if it's been a while, if you've been at this for a while, then like you know that flip side of just going and trying to help pull people along is exhausting. And the worst part is like they keep coming back for the same issues, and nothing's really changed. So what shifts is when you stop being the hero with all the answers, and you start being the guide who equips them with their answers. When you choose questions over the quick fixes, you give them frameworks over solutions, you develop them instead of creating a dependency, man, your energy will go up. Your influence multiplies, your impact scales far beyond like you. So these principles that we talked about, the questions first, the boundaries, wisdom transfer, development matching, multiplication strategy, or your legacy impact, like you implement these, you start working through them. You don't need to master all of them today. Pick just one to start with. Maybe it's the 3-question framework or setting boundaries. Maybe it's spotting natural mentors like around you and giving them a nudge towards leadership. But remember, like you've already done the personal growth yourself. You've already worked through things, and you're probably continuing to work through things. You've discovered what your gifts are. You've learned how to create an impact, and now it's about multiplying it. Every time you lead this way, you're not just helping a person, you're shaping the culture, you're shaping everything around you. Now, if this clicked with you, if you're ready to like jump into the next steps, if you want to learn more, gosh, if you haven't already picked up or walked through the GIVER method, then go get yourself a copy. The link is going to be down in the description on Amazon. Go get yourself a copy, or pause the video, go to Amazon and the GIVER method by Jake Talbert. Go get yourself a copy. Go follow us on all the social media. If TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, under the handle of the GIVER method. Check out thegivermethod.com for more tools, resources, opportunities to go deeper. And of course, people who want one-on-one help with any of this, check out the coaching link below. If you have some sort of a community group, event, podcast, whatever, and you would like to talk about how we could bring this message to them, then check out the link below about speaking and podcasting. All that type of stuff you'll find below. All sorts of great resources. Check out all the links, click them all, see what's there, find go on a fun journey. Most of all, with all of this, don't forget, like, your gifts that you have, they are meant to create a ripple. Your wisdom is meant to just spread out, and your influence is meant to grow through people, not just to people. So stop solving, start multiplying. Build the kind of leaders who will do the same for others out there. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend this time with me today, to invest in yourself and start to invest in the people who you're going to make a greater impact on. I hope that we'll catch you in our next video. Have a great rest of your day.